Aurelia.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Midland Cultural Centre, and welcome to A Day in the Life. Now, here is the host of A Day in the Life, Fred Hacker.
Thank you all very much for being here. This program is made possible by sponsorships. We have seasoned sponsors, the financial management firm of Bales, Dishaw, and Holloway. And I believe that two of their representatives are here. Michelle and Jeff, where are you? Thank you for being here, and thank you for your support for our program. We appreciate that. And if you're interested, they help you to build and preserve your wealth, and they provide strategic guidance through every stage of your financial life. The show sponsors for this specific program are Dr. Dan Scanlon and Dr. Andrea Jones. Unfortunately, they're not able to be here because they're on vacation. I don't know why they would have a vacation when they could be here with us tonight, but we are grateful to them for their sponsorship. So we have you here in the audience this evening. We're grateful that you're here. The program is also being recorded, and it will be available on Rogers Community Television. It will be available on YouTube. It will be available on the Midland Cultural Centre website and on the McLean Hunter website. Or McLean Hunter. That's a while ago. The Rogers Community Television website. It was probably just 25 years ago that it was McLean Hunter. Our guest tonight is someone of whom we should all be very proud. She is an actor who has made it very big, very soon, and I know a lot of you know her personally, and we're just thrilled to welcome to our stage tonight, Shayla Brown. Hi, Shayla.
Hi.
Have a seat, please. And welcome to Libby.
She'll settle
Libby,
down.
you're occupying the prime point on the stage, aren't you? Yeah. I think Libby thinks we're going to have this show about her.
Obviously.
And in part it will be, won't it?
Yeah.
Well, Shayla, I'm thrilled to have you here, and as I said in the introduction, we're all very proud of all you've achieved already at such a young age. And tonight we're going to talk about how you got to where you are now, some of the influences in your life, some of the people who have made possible the successes that you've had. And we're also going to, I think, through you, encourage our audience and the people who will watch this program in the future on television to go and seek their dreams the way you've sought yours. So we'll be looking for inspiration in that direction too. Well, let's begin at the beginning. Where and when were you born?
I was... Well, let me recall in my memory. I was born in Toronto on August 5th, 2003.
Okay. And when you came along, you weren't alone.
No, I was a twin. I am a twin. And everyone thinks being a twin is great. I would like to come on record and say that being a twin is not great. Because everyone's like, oh, it's so great. You must love it. No, you guys don't think. You have to share a birthday. That's the one day of the year that it's supposed to be about you, and you have to share it with someone else. So.
Now, does your brother feel the same way?
Yeah, I think we would both agree with each other.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
That's one of the rare things we would agree on.
That's cute. Now, tell me about your parents. Let's talk about your mom for a moment. Can you introduce us to her?
Yeah, my mom is Sarah Brown. She has been around here a long time. I think everyone knows her. because everyone has the, well, she's great, but also you might have not so fond memories of getting your blood taken from her at the lab. Yeah, so my mom has a brother named Uncle Mike. Well, he's my Uncle Mike.
Yeah.
I don't think he's all your Uncle Mike. I don't think he'd like that very much.
And she grew up in this area?
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so my grandparents are also here, Roy and Joan Lavin, and they are her parents too.
Right, right. And I think there's more than a few people in this audience who know your grandparents.
I think so.
Yes. Tell us about your dad.
My dad is Sean Brown. Whenever people ask me about his work, I go, he does stuff with computers.
Stuff with computers.
Yeah, that's
very specific.
His professional title, in my opinion, is guy who does stuff with computers all day. And yeah, he was born in Port Nickel, which is where we live now too.
Now, I understand that there may be a trait that you inherited from him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something that I inherited from my Libby. See, just as we're about to talk about this, she starts doing something embarrassing on stage. I inherited his sense of humor. And so, yes, I do find it really funny that Libby wanted to start licking her butt on stage. And I think he would find it funny, too. So, yeah, we inherited his sense of humor, and it might not be the most appropriate, but, like, I own that.
Yeah, okay. Now, tell me about your mom. What traits did you inherit from her?
I feel like we're very different people. Because, you know, she's very logical and scientific, and I'm just like, yeah, let's create art. But, like, I think that sometimes can bring out, like, the best in people is that, like, we're very different. So that makes it, like, just super interesting, because no one is the same, and especially in our family, it's like, yeah, she's a lab tech, and I'm like, I'm gonna be on Broadway.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Now, your twin brother isn't your only sibling.
Mm-mm.
Tell us about your other siblings.
I've got, so I have, hold on, I need to do the math here. I've got 4 siblings, including my twin brother. My twin brother, he is at Lakehead right now, and he's doing criminology. And I have an older brother, Brett, who is still living with us. And I have an older brother, Tyler, who lives in Barrie, and he's an artist, and he creates beautiful work. And I have a sister named Keely, and she lives in PEI. And I haven't been able to see her because, well, when she went, I was in guide dog training, and then the next year was COVID. So I haven't seen her in quite a few years. So I miss her very much.
Yeah, I'll bet. Well, I hope you get to see her soon.
I'm sure I will. I would love to go to PEI.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I wonder, can we talk about your eye condition for a minute? Because I think people may wonder, and by the way, I did ask permission to raise this subject, because I think it's important for us to understand all that you've achieved in the context of some of the challenges that you've been dealing with. So tell us about how your challenge began, when.
So I was born prematurely. I was born at like 27 weeks, I believe. Me and my twin brother.
You don't remember?
This is just hearsay. We were both born with a condition called retinopathy of prematurity. His got better, mine got worse, and they tried to do surgeries to correct it, and those didn't help and probably contributed to getting worse.
Oh, dear.
So I've been blind since birth. It's been my reality for as long as, I can remember. So that's just the normal thing for me is I'm blind and I don't really care about it that much.
I was interested to learn that you early on would watch some television and people wondered what was going on there. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so when we had a TV, I would sit up very close to the TV. I think parents would be like, "Oh my God, she's sitting that close to the TV." It was the only way I could see it. But the thing was, the doctors had assumed that I couldn't see anything. But then there was 2-year-old me who was watching Dora the Explorer going, "That's purple, that's blue." And my mom went to the doctors and she's like, "She can see something." And they were like, "Oh, no. She's just repeating what she's heard." And she didn't take that answer, and we went to Waterloo to get a second opinion. And as soon as he walked in the room, he was like, "Okay, we know that this child can see a little bit." And so I can. So I'm not totally blind, as they thought, and clearly, as I know now.
Well, that's interesting. And you told me that you see some outlines, but not the facial features.
Yeah, the way I like to describe it is like I can see you and I can see your face, but I cannot see the small details on your face. And
I'm really grateful for that.
yeah, I was just about to say that's usually like when I tell people that they're like, "Oh, so you can't see the pimples and the wrinkles," and it's like, well, you told me about it now, so now I do know. And if you had just kept your mouth shut, I wouldn't have known.
Good for you. I also want to just spend a moment talking about Libby. How long have you had Libby with you?
We've been working together since 2019, and she's 5 years old. So it's been a long journey, and also doesn't feel like that long at all.
And how did you and Libby come to be together?
So I wanted a guide dog. And there are a few foundations across Canada, and one of them is the Mira Foundation, which we're very lucky to have because it's one of the few foundations in the country that will give guide dogs to younger teenagers and kids. So I went there to train with her in 2019, and basically you go up to the foundation and you train for a month, and you what's unique about this foundation that other foundations don't do is they let you test run a bunch of dogs. And it's kind of a team effort to decide which dog works best for you. And as soon as she came into my life, it was pretty clear that she was mine.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. She's very patient and very calm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll talk more about her because you have some good stories about her on the set. We'll get to that later. Well, let's talk about early days. Let's talk about your education. Where did you do your elementary school?
So I did grade 1 to 4, or kindergarten to grade 4, at Port Nickel Public School when it was still around. And then I did grade 5 to 8 at Mundy's Bay Mundy's Bay Public School.
Right. And you went to Mundy's Bay because of a program they had.
Yeah, I went to Mundy's Bay because they offered an extended French program from grade 5 to 8. However, that didn't really work out because when you start learning a new language as a blind person, you also have to incorporate the Braille. And Braille is it's an incredible language, but it's also only 6 dots. So everything you've learned is confined to these 6 dots, and suddenly, like, your punctuation changes because you're in a different language, and it's like, wait, what? So things don't make sense anymore, and it just became too hard for me to keep up with that. So that's why the French didn't work out, but I stayed at Mundy's Bay.
Now, I guess you'd have to go through sort of a mental orientation to get away from the Braille that you'd been using as a youngster. You spent your first 5 years in school using just the normal Braille language, and then suddenly, would that cause some confusion and upset?
Yeah, it definitely did because, because Braille is 6 dots, it's like everything familiar to you feels very similar, and 1 dot could mean the difference between like one letter and one other thing. So suddenly having to change those little details that you've memorized and learned in your head to a completely different language where they can mean something completely different, it gets very confusing and very frustrating, and some people will put up with that, and I admire you, but that was not me.
Good for you. Now tell us about some of the activities you were involved in during your elementary school days.
I was doing choir from a very young age. In fact, I don't even think I was technically old enough to be in choir when I joined, but I had an EA named Miss Berger, who is retired now, but she, whenever the kids in class were doing stuff that like wasn't accessible to me, she would take me on the hall and get me to sing. And so she kind of pushed the choir teacher to be like, hey, I know she's like younger, but she can sing. So I did choir like all throughout elementary school and did the music festival, and that was always a joy. And I also skied, and that was fun too, because as a visually impaired person, you're put in your own category, so you're not really competing against other people, you're competing against your time and how you did last year, and I thought that was really enjoyable.
So cross-country skiing, people might not expect to hear that from you. How did you get involved in cross-country skiing?
It was something that I had found out was offered at Mundy's Bay, and it hadn't been offered at Port Nickel School, so I was like, you know what? I'll try it. And so I tried it, and I really enjoyed it. And so how it worked for races was they would assign a high school student to come and ski with me, and that for the majority of that time was Sophie Thomas, who would ski alongside me and do my races with me to make sure that I was on track and knew where I was going, and we would communicate with each other, and that was a really beautiful relationship of trust and like getting to ski with someone. I was never lonely.
That's wonderful. Now, we're really interested in the, oh, by the way, there is water here if you'd like some. There's a glass right
Thank
there.
you.
Okay. We're always interested in some of the people who impact your life, and I wondered if there were any teachers when you were in elementary school who may have had an impact on you.
My grade 8 teacher, Mr. Larmond, I was really nervous going into grade 8 because I knew I was going to have to make the jump from elementary to secondary school. And like, when you're in elementary school, it's like you're always taught that the grade 8s are at the top of the pile and they're the role model students to the rest of you. And it's like, oh, now I'm there. I'm terrified. But he's really funny, and he's really kind, and we had quickly developed banter and like an inside joke where he would hear a police siren going by and he said, oh, there's the police coming for Shayla. And I bet if he was here right now, he would still do that.
Yeah, that's cute. Talking about inspirations, you were involved with a choir, I believe, as in addition to the school choir. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I had been, I think this started in maybe grade 8 or maybe grade 9, I'm not sure. But I joined the children's community choir. I had done Little Troublemakers when I was 6. And if you ask my parents about that, they would tell you that I stood up there and picked my nose. So I took a long break from choir, and then I came back to it and was much more well-behaved and, actually good at singing. And so it was music directed by Victoria Warwick, who still does that. And it was a joy to sing with them.
Now, has she had an influence on you?
Yeah,
Victoria?
yeah. And that's, I also took piano and theory from her, and she's always been there for me as I try and flounder around and figure out who I'm supposed to be. And in many ways, like, she was there through it all when I was, figuring that out, and when I was changing my mind, and like, she never judged me for that, and she was always just like full support all the time, and she still is. And so I feel like I've always had her in my corner, and I'm just so grateful for her. And she's here tonight, so.
That's a lovely tribute to her. Now, we're going to skip a little bit chronologically here, because while we're talking about Vicki, I have to ask you the story. You discovered that she had a friend on Facebook, and you couldn't figure that out. Tell us that story.
Yeah, so I was working on a little project you might have heard of called Women Talking. And I was working with the great Canadian icon, Sheila McCarthy. And so I went to friend request her on Facebook one day. And I was like, oh, that's weird. There's a mutual friend here. I wonder who that... It's Victoria. That's weird. So I'm immediately like, I don't get it. So I'm going to text her. And I was like, Victoria, why are you friends with Sheila McCarthy on Facebook? She's my sister-in-law. I'm working with her sister-in-law, and she didn't even tell me about that. I had no idea.
That's funny. Now, I understand you tried out dance. How did that go?
I did, and I tried out dance. Again, it was one of those things that I tried as a kid, and, you know, I don't really remember how it went as a kid. I'm sure there are videos of me.
Yeah.
But then I stopped because, you know, being a child is a lot of, like, just trying everything and seeing how you like it and getting those experiences. And then I came back to it in high school, and I danced at the Dancers Studio all throughout high school, and that was really fun. And, like, you know, later in life, I was able to appreciate movement and detail and refinement and grace in a way that I probably didn't as a 6-year-old hopping around.
I think there's a lot of that in life. Yeah. Yeah. Now, you got your acting break in this building. A very big role. Could you tell us how old you were in the play and the part you played?
I think I was like 7 or 8, and I had the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to play the sheep Fuzz in The Boy Who Cried Wolf. I don't know if you heard about that. The reviews were great. And I think it was a collaboration. It was a summer camp, and it was a collaboration with Quest Art and Huronia Players. And our director was Bethany Main, and I was very young at that time. I don't remember how old I was, but that's a partnership that has continued throughout my high school years because she taught drama, and yeah, so I've known her we go way back.
Yeah, back to the sheep and A Boy Who Cried Wolf.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about secondary school. Where did you go to secondary school?
I went to Georgian Bay District Secondary School, formerly known as Midland Secondary School, which is much easier to say.
And tell us about some of your interests while you were in secondary school.
I was really excited to go to high school because there would be an actual drama program, which wasn't really a thing in elementary school, which, you know, of course you do like drama for like a term, but you don't do proper program. And so it was really exciting to just get to do a full period of drama every day. And so I was very much a theater kid, and I did the plays and the class. And that was, like, I surrounded my days with music and drama because I was also a vocal student. At one point I did try out one of the band classes. I don't think I was very good. It was also during COVID, so like half of it was in person, then the other half was online.
Right.
But yeah, I loved music and singing, and I loved theater, and that was, you know, one of the things that I was fortunate enough to do a lot in high school.
That's great. Was there any individual that may have furthered your interest in that direction?
Yeah, we have some great teachers at Georgian Bay District. You know, as I've mentioned before, Bethany Main. I was really lucky because she was, you know, very brave in I got to be the lead in a musical. And as a blind person, I think a lot of directors or drama teachers would flinch at that and be like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? She never did. She was just like, yeah, we're going to do that. That was really exciting for me. So she always let me just try out these big things and never held back. And we also had amazing music teachers, Steph Dunn and Amanda Clark and Matthew Rodnick. I always felt like my love of music was always encouraged and nurtured there.
Great. Now, tell us about some of the roles that you had year by year by year in drama and music in secondary school.
So I started in the ensemble in grade 9 for a music review we did. I think I had one little solo at the end of the show, but being in the ensemble is really fun because it's a lot of teamwork. However, I did want to do bigger things, and I did. In grade 10, I was a mer-sister in The Little Mermaid. I got to be a mermaid, which I think was, a childhood dream that I kind of checked off my list. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a mermaid?
Exactly.
So that was also fun, and then in grade 11 it was COVID, and our show was canceled, and we found that out in the middle of a rehearsal.
Oh.
And that was a memorable night of shock and crying and oh my God, our show is canceled. And then I feel like I need to explain this part is that I had always been planning to go to high school for 5 years because just as a blind person to get resource periods, it just was the option that was best for me. And so in grade 12, I was lucky enough to, still be around for a year after that because in grade 12, we had a play called The Brothers Grimm Spectaculathon, which we did over Zoom.
Oh, what's that like?
We tried. And we did our best, and I think we all found ways to enjoy ourselves. However, I would never do that again. Because the anxiety you get from sitting in a room by yourself and wondering, oh God, is my internet about to go out every 5 minutes?
Yeah.
It's not nice, and the whole reason I love theater so much is the collaboration and the community, and no matter how you try to replicate that, at the end of the day, you're still in your room by yourself in a costume, just having a panic attack because your internet's gonna die.
Now, grade 13, or whatever it's called, 5th year of secondary school, something special happened for you.
Yeah, I was very lucky to, this is one of the, as much as going back to high school for 5th year, by the time I got there, I was like, do I really have to be doing this for another year? The one joyful, redeeming quality was that I got to do a musical in person and not on Zoom. And that musical was Matilda, and I got to play the titular character Matilda.
Wow, congratulations.
And that was really special for me.
So you were the lead in that.
Yeah.
Can you quickly just tell us what the plot is or the storyline?
Matilda is about a girl named Matilda. She's a little girl who is very special. She's very smart. She's very bookish and wise beyond her years. But she lives in a family where she's not very much appreciated by the ones around her. And she goes to school and she meets a teacher named Miss Honey. And through Miss Honey, they both learn the same thing. They both are people who grew up struggling and are still struggling to find their place in the world. And what they both learn through each other is that they are both humans who are deserving of love and that they can give that to each other. And so they have this really special bond that follows through the musical that you get to see progress. And it's also about a girl who has telekinetic powers and can move things with her mind.
So what was your takeaway from that role?
I think Matilda's got a lot more guts than I do. One of the main themes of Matilda is, if something isn't fair, you speak up. And if something's not right, you don't just sit there and let them get on top of you. You stand up and you change things, and you say, that's not right. And I think Matilda taught me that I need to be more like that, and I need to be more assertive, and I don't need to beat around the bush, and I can just say, no, that's not right, and I want to change it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
We've spoken about Miss Maine and the role that she played. Were there any teachers in the classroom that played a big role for you?
Yeah, I had an English teacher for, I think it was 2 years, named Mr. Smith. And in high school, you have to do this thing called the literacy test. It's not cool. Because it's a standardized test that doesn't actually mean anything to you as a person, but like when you get the numbers and you don't pass it, you do take it to her heart. And I, when I found out that I had like just missed the mark of passing, it was an insult. And even though I laugh about it, I felt really stupid. And I said to him, I feel really stupid that I didn't pass this test. And I just remember him making it very clear to me that I'm not stupid and I am a good writer, and this doesn't mean anything to me. And you know, I think without him saying that, later on when Sarah Polley tells me, you're a writer, I wouldn't have believed her for a second, because I would have still been thinking about, you know, all the things that I had done wrong. Because, you know, but he showed me that I did have worth as a writer, and that was like the planting of the seeds.
Did he help you with your writing skills?
Something that he did that, like, I found was very different from other English teachers for me was that he would be my peer editor. A lot of, you know, English classes operate with, you know, you get a classmate to edit, and for me that's not really possible because of the Braille technology. So for him, I would print out a copy and we would go through it together, and he would sit with me and let me know of anything that he saw that was off, and I would fix it. And at the end of the day, once that was done, I was able to sit back and think, wow, I really feel like I did some really good work here, and it's not just something that I have to get done and hand in for homework. It's something that I actually can be genuinely proud of, because I feel like we've worked on it so much.
You mentioned a music teacher. You had Amanda Clark. What did you learn from your relationship with her?
So that was the class where I took band. So I learned that she has a lot of patience for people like me who, even though I know the basics of a piano, it's like you're asking me to do it with a bunch of other people. Yeah, I'll do my best. But she was really encouraging, even though, like, I feel like half of the musicians in the class were just like walking on top of me because they're amazing and they're so talented with their instruments, and then there's me who's like, yeah, I'm playing one note at a time and I'm struggling. But she never made me feel like stupid about that, and it's always like, yeah, let's just do it, let's just see how it is. And like, that's her attitude about everything, is like, let's do it. And she's got so much energy that I wish I had. Like, she's just energy all the time, in the morning, at night. She's the one who was like in our tech rehearsals yelling at us to smile. And she was the one who gave us energy.
That's great. She's exhausting, isn't she?
No.
I'm teasing. I love her. We've talked about Victoria. I want to, well, just before we move on to what people really want to hear about it, which is your acting career, you and I had a very brief conversation about summer jobs, and I was touched by what you said. Can you talk to us about summer jobs?
Yeah, so the short answer is I didn't have any. And the reason why is because being blind in a small town is a nightmare. I say that with love because I actually do love being blind, and like most of the time it's great and I have a party. But being blind and trying to get a summer job is a nightmare because I think a lot of people are very scared to hire us. I think, even though the laws say we shouldn't be discriminating on that, it still happens all the time. And, people can hide that behind excuses of, well, we don't know if the equipment is, just say you don't want to work with blind people, okay? You're scared, I get it. But I think, part of that is because, blind people and disabled people in general have been hidden away from society for so long that now that we're finally starting to come into the light and be valued people of society, people don't really know what to do with us. And so getting a summer job was not really an option because there wasn't really the place for me here.
And that's something that has to change, Shayla.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've been talking about education. I know you've made a couple of applications. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I've applied for a few theater schools. I also was auditioning for those last year, but I realized that first of all, I had applied for too many, and once it came down to actually choosing, I was like, oh my God, that's too big of a decision, and I think I need to really go in and wheedle down what do I want. And so that's what I did. And so this year I auditioned for 2 schools, and both of these auditions were in person, which was really nice because like the year before I had been sending in videos and self-tapes, and that's not very fun. Even though we have to do it as actors all the time, it's just getting the energy, especially for a school in person. It was really important and something that I didn't get to do last year, but I did this year. And so I applied for the National Theatre School in Montreal.
Wow.
And I have a callback, which is basically an audition where you go down and you get to do classes with them for a few days. And I think that's really cool. So I will be going to Montreal in May, and I'm very excited.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your acting career. Can we begin with, you have performed in the 3 principal media. You've done television, you've done film, you've done stage. And so let's talk about them in that order, because I think that's the chronological order in which you did them.
It is.
So tell us about your debut in TV.
So I started during the pandemic. One of my mentors, David Connolly, who's incredible, he is an artistic director, and he happens to be disabled. He reached out to me, and he was like, so they're looking for blind actors for this TV show. And this was at the point in the pandemic where theater was not happening at all. And so I was just like, you know what? I've got nothing to do but sit in my house. Let's do it. I'll audition. And so I auditioned, and I think I did like 6 auditions for that show. And then I got on, and I got to be like a small part of that show, but that was my debut, and it was a really good place for me to have a debut.
And what was the show called?
The show is called C. It's on Apple TV, and it stars Jason Momoa.
Yeah, big name. People would know him from what?
I think they know him. I think they very much do know him, but Aquaman?
Aquaman.
Yeah.
What's the plot of this movie that they needed a blind actor for?
So the plot is that the world has gone through a pandemic, and I know y'all are cringing at that word. I can feel it. But basically, they've come out of it the world unable to see. So sight is kind of a foreign thing to them. And these two children are born with sight, and that's kind of viewed as heresy and against God's will. And so I got to play the leader of a blind army in that show, which was, if you had asked me how I'm going to make my TV debut, it was not that, because I don't look like the leader of an army. But that was the beauty of that show, is that all these things that we imagine now in our world is gone, and there's a completely new way of leading and a completely new way of what a leader looks like, and that's really cool.
And you were a twin in that role, were you not? Or no?
No.
Okay. So there's an irony here, isn't there? That you play the part of a sighted person in a world that's blind. Is that
No. I play a blind person in a world of blind people.
Okay.
And there are only like two sighted people in.
And you're not one of the sighted
No.
people. Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
That would be ironic, though.
That would be ironic.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
Well, you know, there's no place where irony is more prevalent than in theater.
Yeah.
And I was in a play in the early 60s. The play was called The Diary of Anne Frank. And so remember, this is the 60s. This is, I think, about 17 years after the Second World War. And the girl, high school girl, who played the part of Anne Frank, the Jewish girl running away from the Nazis, was a German-Canadian girl.
Oh.
And I thought, that says a lot about Canada, doesn't it? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty ironic.
Yeah, exactly. So, how did you benefit from this role in C? What came out of that for you?
I think the coolest part that I really admired was getting to work with someone who, his name is Joe Strecce, and he is a blindness consultant and was also a producer on the show. Mm-hmm. So what he got to do, it was a very unique job where he wasn't just working with the actors, he was working with every department to ensure that this world had integrity and was respectful to the blind community, and also was realistic for a world of blind people to live in. And so the set was fully accessible because he was working with the set department and the costume department, and that was, something that I had never seen before. And it was just such a welcoming environment to be on that set, because it was just like, here you go, everything's here for you. And it was, honestly, it's a more accessible environment, this fake one that we've created, than our world really is.
Yeah, interesting. Did they have people who would teach movement to the...
We did.
Because the normal actors, sighted actors, would not maybe know how the challenges of movement for unsighted.
Yeah, so everyone, regardless of sight or blindness, would go through this movement program. They had a wonderful team of choreographers, and those choreographers would help you learn the mannerisms of the world, because a world without sight looks very different in the way that we communicate with people. Like, eye contact is suddenly not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
And we don't look at each other, and things that aren't normal in our world is very normal there. So we would learn, basic echolocating, because that's something that blind people have evolved through and gotten better at in that world. And so we learned a completely new way of moving, and every actor learned that.
How did it impact you to have a blind man in sort of running the show?
I think it really set the standard for how other sets should be for me. Mm-hmm. I think seeing how they can make everything really accessible, and it's not this humongous challenge that you might think it is, to make a set safe for visually impaired people. I think it really showed me that, wow, we could be doing a lot more everywhere else, and we should be.
Now, have you kept in touch with him? Has he played a role in your life since then?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a great support, and we've done a few things together. And whenever, whenever he's in relation with a lot of casting, and whenever there's something that might fit me, he's like, hey, he'll text me and he'll be like, hey, I've submitted you to casting.
Wow.
So I'm very lucky to have him because he keeps giving me stuff to do.
That's great. That's great. Now, tell us just what the time frame was for your performance on C. When did that happen, and how old were you?
This was December in 2020. I think I was still 17. So, yeah, 17, maybe.
So tell us about what that experience was like. Where was it shot?
It was shot in Toronto. The first season was shot in Vancouver, but because it's easier to film in Toronto pay-wise, they moved to Toronto, and so that was really lucky for me because I'm a local-based actor, so I got to work on it there in Toronto, and it was, we were filming outside, so there was a lot of, it was December as well, so I had a lot of furs on and like lovely, like soft things and warm things.
Yeah. And how much time would you spend on the set?
So for a normal show, you would just go on for one day and be done. But because in C, they have to integrate you into that world and get you to understand the choreography, it ended up being like several days. Like, I think it was like 3 days of like movement training, and if you've seen the show, you know that there's a lot of like funky prosthetics that I got to wear. And so testing for that, and then the final day I went on set and I worked on set for a day, and by that time I was really close with everyone on.
Obviously, this gentleman about whom you have spoken so highly would play a role in the choreography and the movement and that part of it. What about language? Would he have to teach people the appropriate language to use?
Yeah, that was something that was really not surprising, but like was surprising in that show was that like once we were on, everyone already knew the language because they had gotten so used to working with blind actors that, I don't have to remind people to say left and right instead of, oh, it's over there. Yeah. Which is things that you might not think about in your life, but they did here. And that was really cool because it's like, wow, I don't need to do much work here. Like, I don't need to constantly be standing up for myself. And that was a nice break.
Was it a safe place?
Yes, it was very much a safe place, and we were, Apple was very good at letting us know that, our community was very much respected here, and if there was anyone who didn't, they would be out.
Mm-hmm. Any folks involved in that production that you would be inspired by?
Yeah, the choreographer I worked with really closely was named Alex Herzog, and she is a lovely choreographer and a human and an actor, and she also started a life coach business. And so after C, I was like, you know what? I could use someone to help me get really clear on my goals. And so she started coaching me, and we've had a really good bond ever since. And she's always been someone who I've gone to when I need, advice on the industry, and like she's just a great person.
Wonderful, you have her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Can she play a role in furthering your career?
I hope so. I would love to work with her again in like another capacity, and like I think we've always joked about doing a TV show together again, and I would honestly love to do that, because she's like, I think something I always say to myself is like, it doesn't matter how big the project is. The part that really matters for me is that I'm working with people who I love and who I admire, and you know, who we all respect each other, because that's the most beautiful work environment to be a part of. And she'd be one of those people who is just constantly on your side and a force of positivity, and reminding me to speak kindly to myself. And I think that's really beautiful, and I think she'd be amazing to have.
That's gorgeous. Yeah. Well, let's spend a minute talking about this movie that you made that's had a bit of success.
Just a bit.
Yeah. So how did you get a role in Women Talking?
So the casting directors for C, one of them is related to Sarah Polley. So she works with them all the time. And so, like, just a bit after C, after the Christmas holidays, I received an email being like, hey, we're looking for the 2 main teenagers of this film. Would you like to audition?
Oh.
You might not think that's a big deal, but when I looked at the description, I stared at it for about 5 minutes, because I was like, wait, where's the part about the character being blind? There wasn't one. And that was a really big deal for me, because suddenly I was being asked to audition just as an actor and not as someone who was blind. And she was still willing to even audition me, which was crazy for me to think about. And so I was just really excited to get that opportunity to audition. And so I did my homework, I read the book, and then I auditioned and heard nothing for several months.
So when did the audition take place?
It was in January of 2021.
So this is just a month or two after C.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so you audition. How do you audition for a role as one of the 2 teenagers in the film? How was that audition done? Was it live or on Zoom?
It was on Zoom, and it was my first Zoom audition. I'm used to at that point I was very used to self-taping, which is when you film yourself, and it's very weird. And then Zoom auditions, as a matter of fact, is also weird, because, you know, that thing again where it's like, is my internet gonna cut out? It's anxiety-inducing, but, you know, things turned out pretty well, so nothing went wrong, clearly.
Well, now, did things turn out so well? Because you said you had to wait months. Did you get a role as one of the 2 teenagers?
That's true. Well, so when I did the audition, you know, when you're doing an audition with a live director, it's really exciting, because you get a redirect, and like that's when they tell you to adjust something you're doing in the scene, and that's really cool, because it's like you get to have an understanding of what they're looking for, and they get to understand if you can take direction. And I just love doing that. And you know, in the world of self-taping, we don't usually get to do that anymore. But after the audition, you know, Sarah just said thank you, and I ended the call, and I was like, I could not tell you how that went at all.
Yeah.
Like, she might have absolutely hated what I did. I don't know. I can't tell. Because she didn't give much away, which a lot of directors, it's like, yeah, I think I get the vibe that you want to work with me or not.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell with her at all. So months went by, and I think it was in like April where I get an email out of the blue saying, hey, so Sarah's written like a completely different character for you. Do you want it?
Wow. Wow. That doesn't happen very often.
No, it's not something that happens very often at all.
Oh.
And so I didn't have to think about that much.
You know, I'm trying to picture what it would be like to be 17 years old and do an audition in front of Sarah Polley. That's got to be scary.
It was scary, but what's so lovely about Sarah is that, like, she's very much a human, and she's not that big director boss that you might imagine. She's just a person, and she's just so down to earth that once I was in the room, I wasn't thinking about it, even though before I was like, oh my God, it's Sarah Polley, it's a Canadian director, and then when I was on there, I was like, oh, she's just a person.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
So we're in April of 2021. You get an email saying Sarah Polley has written in a part into this play, this movie, which is an adaptation of a book.
Mm-hmm.
So has she created new characters?
Yeah, she had created a family of characters that were not in the book.
Wow.
Because with a film, you're able to expand the scope at which you're telling the story. These women who hadn't been given their voice or been given their time to show their side of the story are given this opportunity. And so she wrote in those parts for me and for Kira Galoyan, who plays my mother, and for Frances McDormand, who plays my grandmother.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
that was the scariest part.
Yeah.
Because she just, when I asked her, so like, I don't know who my character is. She's like, okay, so she's Frances McDormand's granddaughter. Yeah. And that nearly made me poop myself. I think that's understandable, though. She's quite, when you think of Frances McDormand, you think of intimidating, right? That's not just me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, I mean, just to take one step back, you get this email. What's your reaction when you realize that Sarah Polley has written a part for you? What is that? Just another day at the office?
No. No, my mind was blown, and my mind is still blown, and we've done the film. I still can't process the fact that she did that for me.
Yeah. Wow. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about the plot line, if you will. What's the movie all about?
So this is based off of true events, but this is about a group of women in an isolated religious colony who have recently discovered that they have been, over the years, all of them, from the ages of 3 to 80, have been sexually violated in the night by men who have snuck in through their windows, and they have been using cow tranquilizer to knock them out. And this is a very bleak backdrop to set the film. However, that's not what the film is about. The film is about deciding what these women should do. And it's a discussion in a hayloft where these women decide, do we stay and fight, do we leave, or do we do nothing? And that's these are decisions that we make in our lives every day, but this is a very momentous decision that they're making, and the film is all about how do they reconcile their faith with their decision, and how do they move forward in a reality that seems impossible to do so.
So, you get together with this famous group of actors from all over the world. Where did they come from?
They came from the UK, they came from America, and they came from Canada too. So it was a really well-rounded group of people.
And when did you all sort of arrive together to begin this process?
Well, we had a week of Zoom rehearsals as everyone from the US and the UK was coming to Canada, and they had to quarantine. So our first week of rehearsal was over Zoom, and it was really just a lot of table work to understand, every scene. And because, it's called Women Talking, it's a dialogue-heavy film. So we all just, got to understand every bit of dialogue in that film. And I was, I'm not in the hayloft much, so my dialogue was limited. And that's one of the things about my characters, that, we are the women who decide to do nothing, and therefore our voices are silent, and that's a very powerful representation for them. But I was lucky enough to have Sarah Polley, who was like, if you guys just want to like stay and watch rehearsals every day, you can do that.
Wow.
And so I did, and I stayed on these Zoom rehearsals, and I just got to watch Claire Foy delivering the most gut-wrenching monologue of her life, and I just could sit there off camera crying my eyes out. And that was a masterclass in acting.
I was going to say, that's the National Theatre School right there.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Yeah, wow. So we've talked a little bit about Sarah Polley. Just very briefly, can you tell me what you think of Sarah Polley?
She's the most collaborative director I've ever worked with. And I don't think it's normal, her level of collaborativeness. She's just like willing to work with everyone's ideas, and that's what sets her apart, is that she's just like, if I said, I think my character's doing this, and she said, I think your character's doing this, it's like, it wasn't like, oh, well, I'm the director, so do what I say. It's, all right, so how can we incorporate your idea of what you believe your character is doing? Because I do believe that you have a very strong instinct of what your character is doing. And how can we incorporate that with my vision? So she was willing to compromise and work with every actor to let her vision and their vision of their character flourish at the same time.
I'd like to talk about some of the other actors, and I'd like to just ask you if you can briefly sort of tell us about your experience with them. So Frances McDormand would be the first one.
Oh boy. So as I mentioned, I was very intimidated that I was working with Frances McDormand, and that, like, not only was I working with Frances McDormand, but she was one of the people that I would be working closest with. And when I met her, she is not intimidating, as I believed. She's very down to earth and fun and funny and kind and just all the things that a human should be. And I remember on our first or second day of filming, they were doing a lot of coverage on me. And at the time, you know, that doesn't faze me, because you got a lot of adrenaline running through you, and you're not thinking, and you're just doing. Yeah. But when I got back to my hotel, I got an email from Sarah, and it said, "Thank you for all the beautiful work you've done today. Fran is going around to everyone and saying that you're the smartest actor in the room."
Oh, wow. Isn't that great?
There are 11 of us in the room, and Rooney Mara and Claire, and you're saying that I'm?
Yeah.
And that's a compliment that I think, like, is the highest compliment I will ever receive. Like, I want that imprinted on my brain forever, because, yeah, like, it's, nothing will ever top that for me. I don't think.
Jessie Buckley.
Jessie Buckley is so warm and full of love and energy, and I think it wasn't even when we were filming, I was lucky enough to work with all of these people at once. So we didn't really have any moments together while filming, but after filming, we were at the Toronto International Film Festival, and there are many fond memories from that night. The song that rolls during the credits is Daydream Believer, and we were all dancing backstage together, and she was holding my hands, and we were dancing and hugging and, like, cheering. And then we did a Q&A, and they had asked the cast, what do you hope the audiences take away from the film? And that's a question that is big. And I think everyone was like, oh, crap. How do we answer this? How do we answer this? Sheila McCarthy turns to me and gives me the mic. Why did she do that? I'm standing here like, oh, crap. Come on. Think of something profound, something you can, okay, I got it. So I said, I hope that audiences take away the fact that these options that these women have to stay and fight, to leave, to do nothing, there is no option that is better than the other or braver than the other. They are all valid and they are all brave. And it must have been good, because everyone started crying. I remember that. And, you know, I remember a lot of people being very thrilled about my answer. And then after TIFF, she Jessie Buckley was doing some press for the film, and like in several articles, she was like, this brilliant young actress, Shayla Brown, put it best. And she brings up what I said, and it's like, oh my God, my words have an impact on these people who I admire and these people I get to work with. And that just meant so much to me, that it's like, you don't just remember me when I'm here and in the room, you remember me when I'm not here, and you remember what I said, and I do have an impact.
That's special.
Yeah.
Ben Whishaw. Yeah.
Ben Whishaw. You might know Ben Whishaw as Paddington the Bear. I know him from Mary Poppins Returns. So hearing that I get to work with him was really exciting. And I remember we were doing that scene in the hayloft where they were doing a lot of coverage on me. And something that's very lucky for me is that I have a guide dog on set all the time. And so in our green room, she was the hot spot, and she was bringing everyone to my corner of the green room because she'd be, she wasn't working at that time because she was getting a break, and she'd be on her back with everything out there all displayed, which is very appropriate. Totally workplace behavior. And people would come up to me and to pet her. And I remember Ben came over, and I was like, here comes another person to pet the dog. And he didn't. And he stood there and he said, you've done really beautiful work today, and I've just really loved watching you do that work. And what was, Ben's character, August, spends the majority of the movie just writing down what people are saying. So he really got the opportunity to watch us. But he didn't have to. He could have just zoned out and been scribbling. I don't know if I'd be able to keep my attention span for that long, but he was watching what I was doing, and he felt the need to compliment me for it.
Wow.
And that meant a lot to me.
I'm sure.
Because just for someone to have the kindness to just come up to you and say, you're doing really great today. It might not seem like a big deal, but it is, because, especially this was my first film. I was running purely off of my instincts, and I had no idea what I was doing. So to hear that validation was really empowering to me. Yeah.
Huge. Tell us about Rooney Mara.
Rooney Mara and I were buddies in the green room because they had everyone in sections because of COVID. You had your own station, and hers was right beside mine. Rooney has a dog named Oscar, and Oscar came to set with her, and Libby came to set with me. And Oscar was this little dog, and Libby is a not-so-little dog. And they still became best friends. And Rooney also has a son, and he was 1 year old, and he loved Libby too. In fact, he loved her so much that he thought that, he took his little dog on walks around the room. He thought he could take Libby for a walk around the room. But she's kind of a bit of a giant compared to him. So he grabbed onto the leash, and she was like, why is this little speck of dust telling me what to do? Luckily, she wasn't mean about it. She was just very confused.
Tell us about life on the set. I have this mental image that you just sort of work 24 hours a day, and it's nonstop, and it's ferocious. Is it like that with Sarah?
No. Something very unusual for women talking was that Sarah, when she was asked to do it, said, listen, I'll write it, but I don't want to direct it right now because I have 3 growing kids, and I want to be able to see them at night. And the way that film sets are designed, you are working a lot and so many hours a day. And so Frances McDormand and Dee Dee Gardner, who are our producers, said, well, you know what? These rules and these ways that the film industry operates have been created by men. Why don't we just change that? And so they did. And so what happened on Women Talking was we were working 10-hour days. We would start really early at like 4 a.m. and then we would be done by 4 p.m. And that's not normal because a lot of times we'd be working overtime. But like for Women Talking, it was like people could go home and see their families and not just to tuck them into bed, to have dinner with their kids. And that was something really beautiful, was that like it was a big the patriarchy sucks moment and we're going to get rid of it. But it was also like, here's the matriarchy of women in film and, you know, mothers and being there for your children and being there for each other. And it was a very communal experience.
Beautiful. May I ask you about the pressure, the physical pressure and the emotional pressure of making a movie like that?
Well, I'd say that the physical pressure is like, you know, the reality is you are getting up at 3 a.m.
Yeah, that's physical pressure.
And it's, you know, it's a lot to adjust to. Even though it is a very exciting time, it's still, at the end of the day, 3 a.m. and you're tired. But the emotional pressure is, how do I learn how to, you know, we've spoken about this film and its plot. It's, even though it's very hopeful, and the movie itself is so filled with hope, and, you know, people would be shocked to know that it's filled with laughter as well. At the end of the day, you still have to keep what my character, Helena, has been through and what all these women have been through. That is extreme violence. And so learning how to not take that home was a very big emotional pressure that I don't think I've mastered yet. I think I thought about it a lot. But I think it was a good learning experience from my first film, because it's like, oh God, how could we get darker than this? I'm sure we could, but like, you know, I think I've learned the basics of how to deal with those emotional pressures now, and hopefully I'll do a bit better next time with not bringing that baggage home with me.
It's probably a learned behavior. You probably have to go through it to learn how to cope with it. The movie's had some success. You tell us about some of the awards and the recognitions?
Yeah, so I think the biggest one, on the Oscar nomination morning, I was up at like 8 a.m. Why do they announce them so early? I don't know. If I was on the Oscar board, I would say, let's not do that. But, you know, maybe one day I'll get there and I'll... Anyways, 8 a.m., I was like, oh God, what are we up for? I was very nervous, and I'm sure everyone on the team was nervous too. And the first category they announced with us in it was Best Adapted Screenplay. And I remember there was a slight hesitation before they said Women Talking, and I was like, where is it? Sarah Polley needs to be here because she's a brilliant writer, and she better be here. And then they said it, and I was like, yay! And I was so happy. And then we also got nominated for Best Picture, and we also, again, it was the last nomination to be announced. So I was sitting there on pins and needles, and, you know, that also has to do with the fact that Women Talking starts with a W, so alphabetical order. But it was still very anxiety-inducing for me. And so at the Oscars, our esteemed writer and director and amazing human, Sarah Polley, took home the award for Best Adapted Screenplay. Yeah. And that was a big celebration in my house. And I imagine much bigger at hers.
The play, the movie has won a lot of awards. You got a Best Ensemble Cast award, so you have something, a plaque to show for that. A huge film. Half is your first one. I mean,
yeah.
You're going to expect every movie you do gets an Oscar.
No, I think now it's like, oh God, where do I go from here? I guess where I go from here is being the lead in that Oscar-winning film.
There you go.
And I think I could do that.
Now, time is never our friend in this program, and I do want to talk briefly about your third medium, which is live on stage. And you did, I guess it was about a year ago now?
Yeah, just about a year.
What was the name of that play?
Bad timing. It's called Orphans for the Czar, and it was written by George F. Walker. And we performed it at the beautiful Crows Theatre in Toronto.
And what's the setting, and very briefly, what's the plot?
So the setting is Russia in 1905, just before and during and after the Bloody Sunday riots. And it's about like these people who are on like orphans and poor people who are trying to deal with their very messed up society and trying to survive, and also trying to survive through a riot, which was very fun for me to act.
Now, that's a very dark theme, very bleak, and yet you told me that there was a lot of laughter on the set. Why was that?
Well, it is a comedy. So, even though it is a very dark, I haven't described it well in the comedic sense. But it is a comedy, and so there's naturally a lot of laughter, and like, I think that was something for me to get used to was whenever the audience laughs, I want to laugh too. So mastering my poker face is still a work in progress. And however, that was just exacerbated by working with Eric Peterson, who is naturally gifted at making people laugh, even if maybe he's not even trying to be funny. But he just makes you laugh with things he says and things he does that I had a very hard time containing myself around him because he was just naturally had a sense of humor that just came out.
And this is live theater, so you don't get to do a retake.
No, and that, came to bite me in the butt when we were doing a show. And basically there's this one character named Yakov. And Eric, in rehearsal, had jokingly called him Jackoff. And, at the time we thought, oh, wouldn't it be funny if he had done that during a show? He did. He said, we'll get Jackoff to come with you. And we immediately after he said it, we both realized what he said. And I can hear him go under his breath like, huh? And it took all of the self-restraint I had in the world to just keep myself cool, keep the scene going, and then immediately once we get off stage, I'm like, you suck. Why did you do that to me? Like, I am the youngest actor here. I am still learning how to control my laughter on stage and how to not let it show. You could have picked any of the other actors to do that to. They would have been better at handling it than I did. And then we promptly burst into laughter that lasted about 5 minutes.
That's funny. I want to spend a minute talking to you about a subject that you've raised, and that is your advocacy for blind people in roles in Hollywood. Tell us about what you think has to happen in Hollywood to change.
I think what really needs to change is that we've moved forward in great strides when it comes to diversity and inclusion, and that's beautiful. Disabled people and disability is usually the last to come to the table. And I think the reason for that is because there needs to be more of us, not just acting and performing, but we also need to be the ones writing the scripts and running the shows and producing those things and casting those things. We need the main thing I'm trying to say here is that we need to be everywhere, and we need to make sure that we are unavoidable and that we need to make them see us, because they're not going to unless we really push.
Good for you, good for you. What can you do?
Sarah Polley has said I'm a good writer. She has really encouraged me to start writing my own stories because she thinks I have something important to say. I'm still trying to figure out what that story is and what I do have to say, but she believes that I have something valuable to say, and that's the first step, is someone believes in me, and therefore I think for her to say that about me, Miss Oscar winner, I think I have to trust her opinion that she's correct.
Yeah.
And so I think I would love to try writing stories that feature blind people at its heart, and get more of us working on all sides. I think the ideal situation would be just working with a bunch of blind people on every side of the production. I think that'd be so cool, and I want to see it happen. And so maybe I will make it happen.
Good for you. Are there misperceptions in Hollywood about blindness?
Yeah, I'd say that Hollywood is probably a lot of the main reasons why we have so many misconceptions about blindness, because, you know, our main focal point for people is seeing them represented in media, whether that's a comic book or if it's a TV show or theater. And because sighted people have been writing blind people, there's been so many misconceptions that surround us, that have been so widely perpetuated by the media, that people just think they're fact now. And a lot of them are very much not, and that's because sighted people are playing blind people, and sighted people are writing blind people, and not doing the work to actually consult us and fact check and make sure that things aren't offensive or stereotypical, and these stereotypes just keep getting pumped out. And so to have authentic blind representation, it should be the blind people who are writing these projects, or at least consulting on these projects.
Shayla, I want to close by talking about Shayla Brown's future. What do you see yourself doing in the years to come?
Well, we've talked about writing. I think what I want is to be working on a project that I'm really passionate about and that I love. And I don't know what scope that is, but all I do know is that I want to be working with people who are not just good actors, but who are good people. Because what I learned from Women Talking is that the better the people you have working with you, the ones who are there to pick you up when you fall and to love you and support you, that's how you get your best performance, because you have people who allow you to be vulnerable and make you feel safe enough to do that thing. And so I want to work with people, again, who make it feel like a safe place to be in.
Good. I want to just pursue the writing just for a minute. What type of writing do you want to do? Do you want to write screenplays? Do you want to write novels? What's going to be your outlet?
I think I'd really like to follow in my mentor's footsteps and write a screenplay, which is something I never would have imagined myself doing until she was like, "Hey, Shayla, you need to write a screenplay right now." Because I had never imagined myself doing that, but again, she believes in me, and you know what, I think it'd be really cool. And you know, I'm the one here saying we need to have blind people on all sides of representation, and we need to have them writing the stuff. Well, I can be that person, and maybe I could write the stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
I want to talk about the National Theatre School for a moment. What's it all about? What happens there? Why do you want to go there? What will you get out of going there?
Well, after I had done my theater school auditions last year, I realized that I am a lot more ambitious than I thought I was. Meaning that I don't just want to go to any school. I wanted a school that had a great reputation. And if I was going to go to school, I wanted to be really passionate about where I was going and what I was doing. And I wanted it to be a school that people know about and people in the industry are like, that's a great school. and brings out great people. So I want to be one of those great people, and National Theatre School was one of those schools where it's like, it's big, and a lot of big people have come from there. So I'm just going to shoot my shot and try it. They only accept 12 students a year. They audition all across the country. And so I was like, I really don't know how this is going to go. But you know what? I'm going to try. And, you know, a lot of the times when we're auditioning and we don't know how things are going to go, that's really scary. But for this one, I was just like, we are going to go in here, and I'm not going to think about it as auditioning. I'm going to think about it as I am making an offer to you, and if you want me, you'll take it. And so changing my mindset of how I was auditioning was really helpful for me to get in there with a clear head. And that's still how I'm going about it. I'm not going to Montreal with the intention I'm going to get into the National Theatre School. I'm going to show them what I can do. And if they want it, they can have it. And if they don't, that's fine too.
Good for you. Good for you. Now, yeah, absolutely. This may be a self-evident question, but does having an Academy Award-winning film on your resume help at all?
I'd say it does. I also think so for the National Theatre School, we had to provide references. Having Sarah Polley as your first reference, I think it's pretty great.
I think so too. And adding in Frances and Sheila, and that probably doesn't hurt either.
No, I don't think it does.
Yeah. Now, do you keep in touch with all those people? Is there a network in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, Sarah, you know, I've started just trying out writing and seeing what comes of it, and not making any ambitious plans, but just trying it for the sake of finding the joy in it, because I think what school does is that it takes a joy out of writing and storytelling that I think I needed to discover again on my own. But the person who I went to when I was like, so, writing a screenplay, how do you do it? She was the first person I text her all the time, and I'm very lucky to have her just in my pocket because I can text her any questions I have, and just also, we're just friends, and I love going to see her family and her kids, and we're just good friends, and she's also a mentor, and she means everything to me.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Libby's been really rambunctious tonight.
I know.
I'm
running around the stage.
I'm kidding. Yeah. Oh.
She heard you talking about her.
I mentioned her
She's
name.
like, you want me to start now?
Yeah. No, we're fine, Libby. Thanks. Yeah. So just let me thank a few folks. Thanks to all of you for attending this evening. This has been a very special evening for all of us, I'm sure. And I want to thank our friends from Rogers TV, Madison Fitzpatrick, who is our producer. And I want to thank the MCC staff, especially Glenn Irwin, who is our technical guy, and Michelle Fair, who does our marketing. Thanks to our sponsors, to Bales, Dishaw, and Holloway, who have been very faithful sponsoring our seasons for many years now, and we're very grateful to them. And also to Dr. Dan Scanlon and Dr. Andrea Jones, who've been the sponsors of this program this evening. Shayla, I want to thank you. You've been a wonderful guest. It's been an honor for me to get to know you. We're all very proud of you in this community and in this whole area, and we just wish you all the best in the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Y'all are great.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
So many handsome, delicious men on this beach.
That guy's totally gonna be an F-boy.
There's something in the water.
I'm back.
Here we go.
Back the up.
Just burn paradise to the ground.
Oh my God! Like if you look up chaos in the dictionary, I'd be there like this.
Oh my God, look.
It's gonna be wild. Bachelor in Paradise Canada.